And we do have another great Warrior Talk, Brett. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. We already see a lot of you on, and we're going to do a little quick recap from last week. I don't know, I should make this a question and answer session. Do you know what last week's was? No,
Hey.
actually, it was about trusting the process. I hope that everybody got to see that. And if you didn't, you can always go back, watch the replay, or you can go to my YouTube channel. I think it's Heather T. Van Daren. You can watch all the Warrior Talk programs
Yeah.
there. You can find us on Taken TV. Trust the process. We're vessels, guys. He is the potter and we are the clay. We're the steel and he is the what is that called?
The
What is
blacksmith,
the blacksmith? Yes,
the hammerer.
absolutely.
You know.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love your sword. I gotta get
Thank
me a
you.
sword.
Oh, well, yeah, you did. Well, hey, I didn't know that you didn't have one. We need to have Heather in armor.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
when
with
in armor.
yeah, are you kidding? Have you ever seen the Joan of Arc illustrations and of a woman with a
I
sword?
yeah,
Pretty
I
cool.
don't know, man. I might just topple over face forward.
Well, we'll talk about that after the show. You might see Heather in some armor soon. So, who
My
knows?
gosh.
Me
How
too.
did we get here?
Well, hey, we have to arm you with the wisdom you need to navigate
Um,
today's adventure. How's that? That was a
yeah, that
good
sounds
recovery. Well, you
wonderful.
talked
And
about the process, Heather, and again,
yeah,
I pulled out this sword. There's a process to this sword. I've told people before, you are a sword. It doesn't start out beautiful and sharp. It starts out metal, steel, and it has to be put into the fire, and then
mhm.
hammered, and then cool water. And our culture just wants the cool water because they don't want thinkers and they don't want warriors. They just want servants. And so that's not who you are. All that to say is you're in a process. Some of you are in the fire right now. Some of you are in the cool waters. Some of you being hammered right now. Your character is being developed, but you can go back and watch last week and really see
Yeah,
the illustration of that.
absolutely, absolutely. Yantina said that the listeners out there are the hearers, okay, and that we're the speakers. And she says, "Bring it on, Brett. You have a new special story." I'm sure
Always.
he will, Yantina. I am very sure he'll have a special story. He
Here's the
always does.
story.
You
Oh,
know, today's topic is really kind of cool because it's simply titled "If Only." We could go in so many different directions just with that topic alone. But we do have something special in our hearts today that we want to share with you. And it's simply as this, okay? We have a subtitle called Trading Your If Only Regrets for God's What If Possibilities. Have you ever thought about that? Have you thought about how we live in the past and we let the regrets of the past just drag us down? I know somebody who has put them as far as the East is from the West, and he doesn't remember them anymore. So why should we? What's your take on that, Brent?
well, we said before we started filming, that it's easy to live in the land of regret.
Yeah,
I have an old rent house there. I haven't visited it in quite a while,
yeah,
but hey, it's easy to live in the what could have been, should have been. My sweet mama, who's so beautiful and proper. She said, well, I'll paraphrase. She basically said, if its and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a heck of a Christmas.
I
And
love that. I've heard
yeah,
that before. Yeah.
but you know what though? If you just live long enough, or maybe you're awakened earlier enough, or you awaken now, you can see how God has designed your life in the midst of your pain. That He really does work everything to the good,
He
according to
does.
the Pastor Jerry Howell, Dr. Jerry Howell of Destiny Prayer, incredible man, spiritual father, wonderful man. He said, God is working in your past and God is
Mhm.
working in your future
Mhm.
to make your present work together for the
Yeah.
good. And of course, if that
Right.
sounds weird to you, God is light, and in him there is no darkness. He's the same at the speed of light. There's no time. He's the same
Yeah.
yesterday, today, and forever. Who was and is to come. You don't have to live in the land of regret as you
Right.
ask yourself the what ifs in our life.
Yes. Absolutely. I don't know. I've learned to let go of a lot of things in the past because for me personally, if I dwell and dwell and dwell on things that I wish I had have done different, um, it tortures me. And who is the one that is doing the torturing? I mean, yes, I'm torturing myself by not letting things go, but that's not God. God's not God's not going, yeah, let's drum up some of Heather's past and let's just torture her a little bit today.
No,
You
no.
know?
Well, if you can take on the mentality that not only does everything work together towards the good, um, and things have been written in your life, folks, you will learn to live without fear or anxiety when you tap into
Yeah,
the truth that your days were written, that
yeah,
your soul was placed into that body for a certain amount of time to make a choice to choose God or to choose darkness.
right.
And I have a belief, and it may not sound the most churchy, which in my mind is the less churchy it sounds, the better. I love church, but I love the bride of Christ more.
Yeah,
And the bride, if it's destiny, folks, if something is destiny, you can't stop it. And
true.
a lot of people don't know what to do with that. But some of you know what it's like to have been in the land of what ifs, or maybe the land of regret. But you discovered that if it was destiny, if it was meant to be, it's inescapable. And Moses probably lived in regret. The what ifs when he was exiled from Egypt. There's a lot of the Egyptians don't talk about the Bible as fables. The Egyptians know the Bible is true. Egypt was a Christian country for a while until Islam came in. But they all know who Moses was. They all know who Joseph was. Okay, and imagine being a prince of Egypt and a famous general. Moses was a famous general, known for his battles throughout Egypt. He arranged. There was a desert that was plagued with snakes that they were going to fight in, and Moses already had it figured out with birds. He used birds for his advantage to win a battle. He was a famous general, so he lost a lot when he stood up for his own people, and his own people didn't even care. His own people were angry at him. They would rather be slaves than be free. They would rather have the ease of slavery than to be free and go to their promised land. Sound familiar, folks? We're dealing with that right now in America
Yeah,
with the body of Christ so many times. And so all that to say is, I'm sure he had plenty of what ifs and regrets, but the destiny that God had for him was inescapable. And
mm,
he was in better shape when he was 40, but it wasn't until he was 80
yeah,
that he stepped into his destiny. Some of you think that you'll be dead before you're 80. Moses started his true destiny when he was 80. So I encourage you to cover all the furniture with the cloths that you need to, and lock that rent house in the land of regret, and throw the key
mm,
into the pond if you can on your way out, because God has a destiny for you. Some of you are facing a lot of what ifs right now in your life. Maybe you lost a loved one. What if they wouldn't have died? Well, if my father would not have died, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing.
that's right.
I would have been living a very different life. Some
Yeah,
some of you are in the land of what if in your marriage. You know, maybe you're projecting. Well, what would it be like if I'm with this person over here? Well, forbidden fruit's always sweet, isn't it? Until it's not forbidden anymore.
exactly.
And so
Mm,
if you're there, I've got a little formula for you that might help you. Not everyone can apply it, but most people can. You know, maybe you're living in the land of regret, like a Napoleon Dynamite's weird uncle that lived in a van, you know, and he was always lamenting about how the coach didn't put him in to win that last football game, and he would have been in the NFL, you know. And they're sitting on the porch. I bet you I can throw this football over that mountain, you know, just delusional, you know. Sometimes you spend so much time in the land of what if, you become delusional. But no, it wouldn't have been that way. But so anyway, what say
Cool.
you, Heather? What do you think?
Well, I just wanted, Alice Beatty has dropped in and she said that many of our hard parts are grooming us to help someone go through that journey.
Hmm.
So, there's a lot of reasons why God lets us make choices to detour our destiny. But like you said, our destiny cannot be stopped. One of the things that I have always it's broken my heart is to see folks that get hung up in where they are in life.
Hmm.
They quit fighting because it's like you said, they're delusional. What they hoped for and what they wanted didn't pan out, and so they just accept status quo. They don't try anymore. Although in Philippians, the Apostle Paul said that I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances, and I've learned the secret of being content in every and any situation, and that is true. But there's a difference in learning to be content, have the experience and the joy of knowing that God's got his hands on you rather than just quitting. I see people that they don't try. They don't try to get out of the hole. They just settle in and say, oh, well, this is my life. You know, if only this. And if it reminds me of Eeyore. Actually, I have actually been guilty of calling people, you're being a real Eeyore right now. Because guys, we're warriors. We are warriors for Christ. We have been given an assignment. We have a destiny. We have something to fulfill for Jesus. Fingers and toes, fingers and toes. And we have an assignment. When you just pull out and quit and just say, well, this is as good as it's going to get, number one, you're not really trusting in God and you're calling him a liar.
Right.
Because in Jeremiah 29:11, it says, I know the plans that I have for you, plans to give you a future and a hope. So if you're saying that this is all there is and it's not going to get any better, woe is me, you're calling God a liar. And that sounds really crass, but isn't it true, Brant?
Mhm. It is. And again, we're told to trust the Lord with all our heart and lean not to our own understanding, but acknowledge him in all our ways, and he will direct our path. Um,
Yeah.
you know, in ministry, there's pioneers and there's settlers. There's people who want to build churches and break new ground, and there's people who they're designed to be settlers. And sometimes you are paired up with a settler and you're a pioneer. Maybe maybe you're both settlers, maybe you're both pioneers. I don't know, but God knows what he's doing, and he does work everything to the good that those who love him and
Yeah.
are called according to his purpose. Now, it may sound bad if I say, if you don't love him and if you don't love him, then do you expect him to work everything to your good? Well, there are people who didn't even know him until after he worked everything to the good. But
True.
but as far as settling, number one, I encourage people, my children and my friends, don't settle for anything. Don't settle for a bad relationship. Don't settle for, mediocrity in your life. Don't settle for poverty. If
Mhm.
sometimes we have to change something we're doing to embrace that and to walk into that. But
Yeah.
don't settle. I believe in this life, we are pioneers no matter what. We might have seasons of settling into a new place, settling into a new
Mhm.
ministry, to a new location or a new state you're moving in, maybe a new chapter of your life, but the most happy you can be, the happiest you can be, the most fulfilled you can be is between you and God. And that
Amen.
sounds like a oversimplified, uh, you know, form,
Cliche.
but it really
Yeah.
is true, because at the end of the day, you are not responsible for anybody's walk but your own. You are not answering for anyone else's sin but your own. And
Mm,
no one's going to have the relationship between you and God uh, than what you have, you know. Some of you are, we kind of did an overview, but some of you are in a rough marriage and you're thinking that, man, I just need to quit and start with someone else. And I know people who've gone through that eight times, and what they didn't realize is the commonality in all eight of those times was them.
them.
But
Oh,
for some of you, if you're in a regular marriage, or a marriage where both of you are together, and you're moving forward together, or you're doing life together, in a semi-normal way or a healthy way, but maybe you're not content. Understand that there is romance, then there's reality, then there's resentment, and then there's revenge. Romance, reality. Everything's sweet when you're in romance, right? Oh God, everything's so wonderful. You know, uh, you, you ever listen to married women talk about their husbands after they've been married for a while? And what did he say? He said, "Well, I don't know what I'm going to," right? But when they're falling in love, oh, he said this and he said that. Or guys, well, my old lady, man, Jesus said, do the things you did at first. You lost your first love, right? Well, there's in a relationship, romance, then sets in reality. You got bills to pay. You got to do life together. You're changing, your body's changing, your life's changing, your seasons are changing, right? That's normal. Well, that's when you go back up to romance if you can. Listen to the old songs, go to the old places, do the things you need to do. If you're not careful, romance leads to reality, reality leads to resentment. You're not who I thought you were, or I didn't expect this, right? Whatever. And then resentment, if you're not careful, leads to revenge. I'm going to make you pay for not making me happy, when the truth is only God can make you happy. Well,
that's right.
that's in the context of the what if in marriage. Well, sometimes your what if can be turned around if you just remember to go back and do the things you did at first. It's not just the guys. Girls,
Mhm.
you gotta behave the same way you did at first too for it to work. A one-sided relationship is not a relationship. There ain't
That's
no
right.
relating going on there. But also
Yeah.
seasons of your life. Let's get in this chair. Also seasons of your life, maybe in your faith walk. Everything was
Mhm.
great when you first came to Jesus. The sky was bluer, the grass was greener. And now, man, I'm weary and I'm tired. Well, reality set in. And then if you're not careful, and you have unforgiveness in your heart, or regret or whatever, it leads to resentment. God, why did you do this to me? And God's like, I didn't do that to you. And then, revenge. I'm going to make you pay. And then you walk in rebellion towards God. So there's a lot of ways you can be in the land of regret, but you don't have to live in the land of regret or the land of what if anymore.
That's right. That's right. And it's the key is, God has the key to your heart, and you have to let him in. You have to allow him to mold you and shape you, to turn you into that beautiful vessel, or that magnificent sword, so that you can march on and do what is pleasing to him. That's a lot of it. When we love somebody like the Lord, if we love him like we're supposed to, we're going to want to please him. Another thing that I was thinking about too, Brant, when the if only, here's another side of the scenario. Okay. Um, we have everything that Jesus or God says in the Bible, to me, is a commandment. It's not just the 10 commandments that were on the tablet. Do you not agree with that, Brant?
I agree.
Okay, well, good. You're still my friend. You're still my friend. Well, here's the thing. When our minds get outside of the will of God, and I mean it starts with the mind, like discontentment in marriage or anything, wanting a bigger house, a better car, more money, a better job, more friends, whatever it is, faster horses, more lottery tickets. What whatever it is. But here's the thing, especially when you start coveting another man or another woman's spouse, that's like a big no-no. Because God says in our hearts, and all of us are guilty of it because it's so easy to do, because if we lust for somebody else in our hearts, we have sinned and we have fallen short of the glory of God, because his word says that you shall not covet thy neighbor's wife. Here's the same thing. Wanting a bigger, better car. There's nothing wrong with having goals, but when you are obsessed with those things, guess who takes a back seat in your life and is no longer number one? Guess who becomes your idol? It's that woman that you really, really wish you had, even though she belongs to someone else. It's that car that you really, really can't afford, but by golly, you're going to find a way to get it if it's the last thing you do. Those things become idols. And God says, you shall have no other idols before me. That's a big deal to God. That's one thing he just literally does not like. So we can't live in the land of regrets, like you said, Brent. The if onlys, I don't even know if that should be in our vocabulary.
Right. Well, again, it's like when we talked about offense, taking the bait, taking the scandal on, falling into
Yeah.
the good thing is we can get out when we want to. Whatever you give energy to, what's the old Indian proverb? There's two wolves that live inside of us, and the one that we feed the most grows. We really do have a choice of what we choose to think about. We have a choice of what we choose to dwell on. And if you notice, if you stop the world and you make a change in your process, you redirect. When you start to feel regretful, then you remind yourself, remind. Have you thought about that?
That's good. Yeah.
Remind, remind, remind. You're not
Yes.
conformed to the pattern of this world, but you are transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then,
Every day.
right, then you jump into that land of the living, because perception's reality. You know what I mean? I'm sure that everyone would have wanted to be married to Brad Pitt. I'm sure everyone wanted to be married to Angelina Jolie at the height of their fame. Little did they know that Angelina was a little nuts and had too many kids she's adopting all the time. And Brad Pitt, drank too much, smoked weed, and lived on pizza. And they didn't have much of a life. But in our minds, if I could just wake up to that. Well, folks, let me tell you something. Perception's reality, and most of the time, it's wrong. Your perception's wrong most of the time, and that's why you have to have something greater than yourself to tap into. Well,
Right.
as a man, you know what? There have been seasons in my life I had nothing, and then there's been seasons in my life I had everything. There was times of rebellion where I denied myself nothing. And I still, if I want to, can go to the back to that time and bleed and regret, because all that did, living for myself, caused nothing but pain and regret. So I went from regret to remind, and I reminded myself of the goodness of God and those beautiful scars that we have in our lives as reminders of where we will never go again. We
Yeah.
realize that in anything, the grass isn't greener on the other side. Maybe it seems greener because there's more manure on top of it.
Well, I know a little bit about manure.
Huh?
I said, I know a little bit about
I
manure
know
out
you
on my
do. You're a
farm.
rancher, yeah. Yeah.
And like that, there was a post that I made on my farm Facebook page the other day. You will face plant in a pile of manure at least once. You I mean, the biggest thing is when we fall, get back up, right, Brett? We're either up or getting up because we're warriors, we're fighters, and we know our calling. And we just, like you said, we have to. Sherry Almond, she says it might take a daily refocus, but that's okay. It's okay. Just refocus one day at a time. You know.
Refocus. That's really good. Or someone said hello from Canada.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I think Rachel.
Uh, Rachel. I don't know how to say her last name. Is it Danzig, Rachel? Yeah,
No.
she is a
Hi, Rachel.
sweetheart.
Well,
Uh,
you know what? Jesus is always the answer. And when I was young and knew everything, instead of being older and realize I don't know hardly anything. People say, just give it to God, give it to God. I'm thinking, man, you fools, don't you understand? And the older I get, the more I realize, cast your cares on him, for he cares for you.
that's
Give
right.
it to God. There was a season of my life, uh, a 17-year season of my life,
Mm,
that was a living hell, filled with pain, sabotage, regret, death. And my sweet little mother, she said, Brent, it's times like these that you identify with the loneliness of Jesus. And that wasn't easy to hear. But the more I thought about Jesus, the less I thought about me. I thought, man, he was a man of sorrows,
yeah.
yet we esteemed him not.
Hmm.
But, he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. He was chastised. The chastisement, the punishment that he took for me, that brought us peace. By his wounds, we are made whole. That's what that means when you see it. We are healed. It really means we're made whole. He
Hmm.
makes you whole. And there are times when you will identify with the loneliness of Jesus. There are times when things may not work out the way you wanted them to. But it's during those times that when you tap into the joy of the Lord, not happenstance, chance or fate, but the joy of the Lord, the constant that allows you to soar above your problems and be solid, to be strong, because you are renewing your strength, with
Hmm.
Jesus. Then you will
Yeah.
get that joy, because the joy of the Lord is your strength.
Yeah.
Joy of the Lord
Mhm.
takes you out of the land of regrets and what ifs to the land of I am.